A lot of us have a loved one in our lives who struggles with anxiety, and it can sometimes be really confusing because we don't always know what to say or what to do or how to act in ways that are most helpful, that are most useful, that are most meaningful to that person. And so we can end up feeling really frustrated or really overwhelmed or really just at a loss on what to do. And so today we're going to talk about some things that we can do that are typically more helpful, that are typically more useful. We're also going to talk about some things that we may have done, that we may have even done with really good intention, that we may have thought about doing, but are actually not typically all that helpful. So stay tuned. I got a lot for you today. My name is Kristina, and I'm a registered clinical therapist, researcher, and online course creator. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I work to help men and women get through the crap that is holding them back so they can like themselves and their lives more every day. And anxiety is a big one that a lot of people really struggle with. And it is different. Someone who struggles with anxiety, that's different than the feeling of anxiety that comes up for all of us in certain situations. So feeling anxious before a job interview or before public speaking or before writing an exam or going on a first date, that is a feeling of anxiety that I think most of us feel at least sometimes, but that's different than somebody who struggles with anxiety day in and day out. Somebody for who anxiety kind of permeates a lot of, if not most of their lives. And so it can sometimes be hard for those of us who feel anxious in certain situations sometimes to really understand what it's like to be struggling with anxiety in a significant and persistent kind of way. And sometimes the things that we find helpful are not necessarily going to be the same things that they find helpful. So to just be aware of that. The other thing that we need to know is that people who are struggling with anxiety, they are never doing things to be difficult or to get attention or to really put people out. They're not doing it intentionally because, believe you me, if given the choice, they would much rather feel calm and grounded and in charge of their thoughts and their feelings and their lives. So to just know that they're not doing it on purpose, that they really are often having a really significant and oftentimes really severe internal psychological battle with themselves. And so sometimes these behaviors come out that do impact us, but to know that it's not intentionally to try and hurt or upset us. Now, different people experience anxiety in different ways, and different people find different things helpful. So I am going to give you a list of several different things that you can try. Now, use the ones that you find helpful, use the ones that work, and leave the rest. So the ones that are helpful, that work with in your specific situation with your specific loved one, if it's working, do more of it. If it's not working, stop doing it. And so we're going to start going through these one by one. And the first thing that we can do that typically is more helpful is to just let your loved one know that you're there for them. Let them know that they can talk to you, that they can share with you what's going on, and that you're not going to judge them. And you might have to be a little bit persistent with this one because they might not want to open up, but that might be because they're scared of burdening you with their problems. They're scared of being a nuisance. They're scared of being a downer. They're scared of bothering you. They don't want to bother you with their stuff. And so they might be a little bit reluctant or resistant. But to not be pushy and not force them to open up, but to just be a little bit persistent in letting them know, just kind of keeping on them, just be like, I am here for you. If you ever want to talk, if you ever have anything that you want to sort through, I'm here to listen. I'm not here to judge, and I want to be here for you. That can be really helpful because they may think nobody wants to deal with them. Nobody really cares about what's going on with them because they might feel like I'm too much for myself. I don't want to be too much for somebody else. And the next one, a really simple one, is just to let them know that they can call you anytime, that you're there for them, that you're there to listen, even if you can't be with them all the time, to let them know that they can call. And it's not necessarily that you're going to be able to answer and talk 24/7, but that you will get back to them when you are free and available, and that they can call anytime. And sometimes just knowing that you have someone that you can reach out to, or even just leave a message for when you're going through something, that is hugely helpful. To know that someone wants you to call them, that someone is okay with you calling them, and when they do call you and when you do talk, to just listen, that you don't have to fix their problem for them, that you don't have to give them advice, that you don't have to have the solution. I think sometimes we get really, really overwhelmed and we get really worked up with other people's problems because we feel like it's our job to solve it for them, to fix it for them. And typically, it's not only not helpful to try and fix other people's problems, but we can't often do it for them, that we can't fix their problems for them, and they don't actually want us to be fixing their problems for them. And so just listening, it's way easier for us to do, and it usually goes a lot further. But the thing is that a lot of us don't really know how to be effective listeners because we weren't taught this stuff in school. Unless you went to school to become a therapist and have a master's degree in counseling. And then, yeah, you were taught how to be a good listener. But I do actually have a whole video that I'm going to link to in the description below that explains and talks about some really simple things that we can do to be effective listeners, because we're not born that way and we don't learn that stuff in school. So make sure you check out that video. And then the next one, number 3, is no guilt trips or ultimatums or threats. If someone is struggling with anxiety and you want them to do something, or you're upset with them for not doing something, to threaten them or guilt trip them or to make ultimatums with them is not going to work. It's not going to get you the outcome that you want, because if they could just do what you wanted them to do, if they could just not feel what they're feeling, believe you me, they would. And so threatening them is not going to get that outcome because it's not going to change anything. So making threats or laying guilt trips, it's just going to make them feel worse. It's probably going to make you feel worse, and it's not going to get anyone anywhere. But that doesn't mean that. So number 4 is, it doesn't mean that we're not allowed to have boundaries. So number 4 is that to have boundaries, to still be living your life, to still be doing what you need to do, to be able to say, let's say that you and your partner, and a really good friend have plans to go out with another group of people, and they said that they would go, and then, when it comes down to it, right before you're about to leave, they all of a sudden say, I can't do it. I'm feeling way too anxious. I'm feeling way too overwhelmed. I just can't do it. And to be able to say to them, not laying a guilt trip and saying something that lays a big heavy on them, to just be able to say something like, okay, I totally get it. I totally understand. And that's okay if you can't come, but I still need to go. I still really want to go. And what can we do before I go to help you feel most comfortable? Or what do you need from me? Or how can I support you before I go? And so still being able to say, I still need to live my life. I still need to do what I need to do. And I'm not doing it as a punishment to that person. I'm doing it because I'm still a person who has their own wants, needs, and preferences. But to be reassuring with our loved one, even to say, like, I'm not doing this to punish you, and I'm not doing this, because I don't love you. I need to just do this for me. And they will typically be really understanding of that. So to have boundaries, to do what you need to do, not as punishment, not to be cruel or unkind to them, to be able to give them the reassurance and to let them know that, that you still love them and you do need to still do some of these things that you need to do. And so then our next one, and we touched on this a little bit with the advice giving, but to not assume that you know what they need. It's amazing how often we try so hard to figure out what somebody else needs, and we suggest all these things and we make all of these recommendations and we have all these brilliant ideas, and they just keep saying something like, oh no, that won't work, or I don't know about that, or I've tried that, or that's no good. And we end up just getting more and more frustrated about it. But the most simple way around this one, the most simple solution to this one is if someone is struggling, if someone's going through something, to not try and guess what they need, to just ask what they need. It's not rocket science, but it's amazing how much we do that isn't that simple, that we go all around that one thing. We don't actually just ask them, what do you need? How can I support you? What would be helpful in this moment? So to just ask them. Another thing, number 6 here, is things that are really not helpful that we can say. And these might come from really good places. We might be trying to be really supportive. We might be trying to be really helpful, but they actually are not helpful at all and can oftentimes make the person feel worse. It can make the situation feel worse. It can impact the relationship in a negative way. So if they are struggling, if they're feeling anxious and you say things to them like, oh, just think positive, you'll be fine. Oh, if you're just more grateful. Everyone's talking about how great gratitude is. If you could just be more grateful, if you could just look on the bright side, then you'll be totally fine. Or say things like, oh, you just need to get over it. You just need to let it go. Like, just don't sweat the small stuff. It's no big deal. You're fine. Just let it go, as if it were that easy. Or being able to say, oh, it's all in your head. It's just all in your head. Well, yeah, it's all in our heads whenever we are going through something emotional, whenever we are going through something that's impacting our psyche, it is in our head. But why does that all of a sudden make it easy to just snap our fingers and get over that? Our minds are incredibly powerful. And that if we could just turn our thoughts off, if we could just turn our emotions off, then we absolutely would. And it's not to say that learning how to be more positive or taking on just a general attitude of gratitude in our lives, it's not to say that those are bad things, but they're typically not at all helpful to say to someone who's in the middle of a struggle, which you know. If you've been ever in the middle of struggling with something and someone comes in and says, oh, it's fine, just think more positive, or just be grateful, what do you want to do? You kind of want to wring their neck. You're like, thanks, that's not helpful. And so to know that it comes from a good place, you are trying to be helpful, but it's actually not. So to refrain from saying those things. And then the next one is number 7, which are some helpful things to say. And some really helpful things that you can say to someone who's struggling is to say, I'm here for you. I support you. I believe in you. I love you. And probably the biggest and most important one, it's okay to be feeling what you're feeling. You might be surprised how often someone who's struggling with anxiety is battling against themselves and getting mad at themselves for feeling what they're feeling and criticizing and berating and judging themselves for feeling what they're feeling. So if you can come in and say, you know what? It's okay that you're feeling this way. It is okay. Then you might actually visibly see them exhale and feel this huge sense of relief. There's very few things that are more supportive than being able to say to someone, you know what, whatever it is you're going through, whatever it is you're feeling, I'm here for you. And it's okay to be experiencing and feeling what it is that you are feeling. And so then brings us to number 8, keeping on this more positive, encouraging note, is to give praise, to not hold back. If you notice your loved one stepping out of their comfort zone, stretching themselves, doing something that you know is not easy for them because of the anxiety, to be able to say to them, like, I really appreciate that, or I know it wasn't easy, or thanks for doing that. I know that that wasn't comfortable for you, and I really appreciate it, or that really meant a lot to me, or even, I really noticed that you did that. That was awesome. Like, that was awesome that you did that. That was really great, and I noticed that, and good for you. I know that that was not something that you would have normally or typically done, or that was really simple for you to do. And so pointing out that stuff, noticing it, and letting them know. And then the next one, and to help take their shame away from their anxiety. So number 9 is to help them see and even overtly point out to them their other strengths, who they are outside of their anxiety. Because you might be surprised how often someone who's struggling with anxiety can feel like, this is all of who I am. I am just this anxious person. I'm just this flawed or broken or messed up or crazy person. And they might get really stuck in those beliefs, and they often do get stuck in those beliefs. But if you can come in and say, hey, like, you're struggling with anxiety, but that is not who you are. You have all these other things going for you. You have all these other things that you are. You have all these other strengths, these talents, these gifts. These are these other things that I really appreciate and value in you, and point them out to the person. Help them see that there's so much more to them than this struggle with anxiety, that is a huge thing that you can do for them that will be actually really helpful. And whenever you notice something, whenever you think of something, don't hold back. It's amazing how often so many of us hold back from saying words of encouragement or genuine compliments or genuine words of praise and recognition to the people in our lives. And it's silly that we hold back. To be able to give someone that gift of words of kindness and affirmation is a big deal. So we've talked about a lot of things here today, and now I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. If you are someone who is watching this and struggles with anxiety, tell us some things that you specifically have found helpful so that you can share that with people who are the loved ones, and you can help them along the way. Let's support each other more in this one. And if you are somebody who is the loved one, to share things that you've done that your loved one has found helpful, that has been beneficial, please do share with us in the comment section below. I would love to hear that. And also, I do have a free PDF. I have a free document for you called 9 Unexpected Ways to Immediately Reduce Stress, and they really help with anxiety as well. So if you're the loved one and you notice yourself feeling stressed out because you want to be supportive but don't always know how to be supportive, then to take some of the stress off that, grab that PDF. There are lots of really helpful and fun and simple little things that we can do to decrease the stress. I think all of us have too much stress in our lives, or at least most of us. So this one's really great for that. Subscribe to the channel so that we can stay connected. Like the video, share this out with your community so that more people can have this information. And do be sure to join my Facebook group, goodformegroup.com. It's not specifically for people who struggle with anxiety or loved ones, but it is just a really wonderful, supportive, encouraging group of men and women who are deep and thoughtful and lovely and also really fun as well. It's a really great community. So it's goodformegroup.com. I'll put the link below. I'll put the link to that PDF below as well, and also the link to that video on developing those really stellar listening skills. Thanks so much for being here. I'm so glad that you were. And until next time, take good care.